What's up, everybody? So I messed up on the first one, did not have all the streams going, ran into a weird error, don't know what happened, got that all connected, figured out, and we're rocking and rolling. Hopefully Instagram will go live. If it doesn't go this time, then we're just going to keep on pushing along, and we're just going to take this story and there it is. So we're on Instagram too. We're everywhere, and we can't wait to talk to you, James. I'm going to give another introduction again. So who we're with today is James Laguerre. I met James when we were at a Warrior Rising event about 2 weeks ago, and we were supporting veterans who were starting businesses, and the community of Warrior Rising, actually meeting a lot of the veterans that are a part of it and in it, came to the realization that these are a bunch of veterans that are motivated to take their lives back and continue to provide value and continue to find their purpose in their lives. And it was a really awesome thing to see. I personally am trying to push that here at Refit. Of course, it's from a different angle where it's like, look, just find purpose in your life in general. We don't have to stay stuck in our mud, and we can keep moving forward and pushing forward. Now, the thing that attracted me to talk to James in the beginning is, one, his beautiful face, of course, and his wonderful mustache, but also, his rings that he creates. So James creates these rings, and he can make rings out of anything, literally anything. He puts ashes into it. He can make it out of antlers, stadium seats, wood from barns or whatever. He actually has some wood even from, was it George Washington's property, I think you said?
It was one of the trees from Mount Vernon. I'm actually looking at the piece of wood right now because I had to write on it with a Sharpie to remember what it was. But it wasn't a tree that George Washington himself planted, but it was a tree that had grown on the property out in
On
Mount
his
Vernon.
property. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that is just so kick-ass. And he has connections just everywhere, and he can make custom rings for you, or you can go to his website and check that out and purchase them. However, the thing that's really important to note is how much love and passion he puts into every single ring that he creates, and how these rings actually help him even with his healing journey and providing value back to America and himself and to the society around him in general. So, James, did I do a pretty good job of summing it up and
Yeah.
introducing you?
That was, that was pretty solid.
All right, fantastic. And also, of course, we got Rocco here with us today too.
Had to make up for that whiskey click you had earlier.
Damn. Making mistakes. Yeah, the whiskey click. It just didn't work. So we're back
this never
now.
happens.
Yeah, I swear this never happens. So that all said, please take us down your journey, brother. When did you, because you're also a veteran, so when did you join? Why did you join? Did you enjoy your time? Take us through it, bro.
Yeah. So I joined back in 2010. I actually enlisted in 2019. I was 17 years old. um, I come from a long line of military family members. I've got uncles, cousins, dad, grandpa, great grandpa. Military was just kind of in our DNA. Um, so I joined at 17. I was an intel guy at 35 Golf. So, wasn't really sure what I was getting into when I joined. Because I was never great with computers and stuff growing up as a kid. I was always an athlete. I was a speed skater. I was a cyclist. That was really where my focus was. And then I joined the Army, became a 35 Golf. And before I left AIT, they were like, hey, by the way, you're deploying like 4 months after you get to Fort Hood. And I was like, oh, okay. This would be pretty cool. Like deploy as a 19-year-old, get out of the way quick, see what happens, see what doing this job in country is all about. And one of the things that I've always kind of done is I always have that kind of expect the worst mindset, so that when it's not that bad, you're kind of just like, hey, this doesn't suck as much as I thought it was going to suck. So we get in country, we start doing our job, we start getting comfortable with everything. And I don't know, I just started having just a really, really hard time being where I was at. We were working 12 plus hour days, and don't get me wrong, I know my position, my job, and where we were working and everything. We weren't outside the wire. We weren't getting shot at every single day. We get IDF hit the base every couple of days, but you know, we weren't in the shit, so to speak.
Right.
So initially, I was kind of in denial of what I was feeling. I was mad at myself that I was starting to feel depressed and anxious and like I didn't want to be there.
Right.
Um, because for whatever reason, I was like, the, I haven't earned this. Like I'm not getting shot at. Why should I feel like this?
Right.
Um, and so I kind of ignored it, kept doing my job. A couple months in, um, I started to notice that I just wasn't sleeping. Like I would lay down and I'd be like, all right, I got like 6 hours before I got to be up, get breakfast, and go to work. And I just lay there for 6 hours. Occasionally get, a 30-minute power nap in, and then my alarm would go off and I'd go to work. And I did that for about a week and a half and started to notice that like the nights were getting worse and the nights were starting to actually get scary. Um, because I wasn't sleeping. I was kind of starting to have, some kind of mild hallucinations throughout. Uh, and dealing with stuff back home. Parents are getting divorced, girlfriends breaking up with you, all of that. It was just a lot of stuff for me at 19 years old to just kind of have hit me all at once, and then have this new kind of depression, anxiety thing show up that I felt like I hadn't. There was no reason for me to feel that way.
Hmm.
Um, and then the pressures of just work. I worked a night shift the entire time I was in Afghanistan, so we're doing route recons. We're following patrols. We're looking out for IEDs that have already been in place and IEDs that have, are currently being in place. So it's a very stressful environment. And one night I come into work and I'm just on edge. And someone had said something to me, and it was a simple like, "Hey, Laguerre, I screwed up, and I should have caught this, but I didn't. So now you've got to do extra work tonight." And I just kind of snapped. And being the 19-year-old PFC in country,
Uh-huh.
if you're the one yelling and screaming at people who are, way older than you and outrank you, there's a problem, obviously.
Right, right.
So one of my NCOs pulled me outside and we sat down. And he was just like, "What's going on with you, man? Like, you have been different the past couple of weeks. You've been short with everybody. You're yelling at people more. Like, you look exhausted. What
Hmm.
is happening?" And I was like, "Look, man, I think I'm depressed. Like I don't know what's going on, but like the past couple of nights, I'm starting to have these weird thoughts, and they're not good thoughts. I know they're not good thoughts. Um, but kind of, hey, there's only one way to get out of this, and it's not going to be good." And when I told him that, he was like, "Okay, okay, all right." It's like, "Let me ask you one question. Are you sleeping at night?" And I went, "Nope." Like, haven't slept for more than 45 minutes in probably 2.5 weeks. And he just goes, "Okay." He's like, I'm gonna get you a sleeping pill. You're gonna go back to your bed and you're just gonna go to sleep. You're gonna wake up tomorrow morning. You're gonna call your family. You're gonna check in with them. Go to the gym. Have breakfast. Like, slow the day down, and then come into work tomorrow night. And I was like, "No, no, I can't do that to the guys. I got to be on shift." And he was like, "No, you don't. Like, this is what you need to do." I was like, "All right, fine." Took a
Yeah, leader
sleeping
of
pill.
yours?
What's that?
Was that a leader of yours?
Yeah, yeah. He was actually one. I had him. He was a MOS transfer. So he and I knew each other in Arizona, and then we both get sent to Fort Hood. And what was funny is the drill sergeant that I had in basic training was one of his NCOs when he was coming up with Fourth ID. So we kind of had that connection right off the bat.
What's
Um,
That's
what's
some good leadership right there.
yeah, it is. What's
yeah,
funny about that? No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. Go ahead, keep going.
good. Uh, so I took his advice. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get to bed. I'm gonna do what I gotta do." Um, and like woke up the next morning. And I was like, "I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna call my dad. I'm gonna call my mom." I'm going to slow the day down, just like you said.
Yes. Yes.
And I get to work that day and he sees me. He's like, "Hey, how you feeling?" I was like, "I feel 100 times better than I did these past couple of weeks." And he goes, "Good." He said, "If you ever need me to do that again, just tell me." He goes,
Mm.
"Don't flip out on people. Just tell me." It's like, "All right, cool." Um, and that was kind of the end point of it for when I was in Afghanistan. Like, I don't know what it was, but that one conversation and that whole mindset of just slow the day down and get yourself back on track, get some sleep, talk to your family. It just kind of short circuited whatever I was feeling in my brain, and I was like, "Oh, I'm better. I'm good." Uh, went through the deployment. We had a couple of bad days mission wise, and James and I have talked about that offline because of a project we're working on. And come home, get married, get stationed out in Hawaii because I'd signed a 6-year contract right off the bat, and they didn't know. They were like, "There's only a couple places we can send him to finish out his 3 years," and Hawaii was one of them. So
Oh,
go out to
damn.
yeah, yeah, it was rough. It was rough. So you know, get out to Hawaii, get divorced a couple years later, and get out of the army. Shortly after that, I met my now partner of 10 years during my last year in the service, and about a year or two into our relationship, I started to notice that a lot of what I was feeling in Afghanistan those first couple of months was starting to creep back. And I was like, wait, like I beat it back then. I won. And now I'm not in country. I'm not doing anything crazy. Why is this happening? And instead of going to talk to somebody about it, I ignored it, which is the exact opposite of the advice that I gave to everybody around me whenever they would come to me with, you know, feelings of depression and, thoughts of suicide and all those things. I didn't take my own advice. Um, and I started to notice that when I was alone, everything else would take over. So my better half would have to go on work trips for a week or so. And for 7 days, I was just in hell. I was in my own personal hell. And it was me that was attacking me, which was the worst thing about it. I'd I'd come home from work, get cleaned up, start to get dinner made, and I'd start to, the walls start closing in, the voices start coming in the back of your mind, talking about how, you're not good enough and all of these different things. And I was just like, I remember distinctly at one point sitting down and just saying, like, "Will you shut up?" And I said it out loud. And I just
Yeah.
went, I just told myself to shut up.
Yeah. I do that.
And yeah, and I was just like, all right, well, I said, you know what? It only happens when Ashley goes on work trips and I'm alone. So I just have to get through 7 days. Get through 7 days, I'm solid once she gets back. Like that's my lightning rod. The person that grounds me, the person that I feel safe with, just got to get through 7 days. So that was my mindset was, distract yourself for 7 days. Go out on the bike for 3 or 4 hours every single day because that's where I found peace for the longest time was getting on the bike and just putting in hours. And this goes on for a couple years. I have a pretty bad panic attack in public with a bunch of our friends. Um, and it came out of nowhere. And I remember looking at them and going, I have to leave. I have to go home. And they were like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, there's an emergency at the house. I've got to go. And they were like, okay. And I remember getting home and I walked into our living room and I curled up in the far back corner and I just curled into a ball and I cried. And that lasted for quite a bit. And I called Ashley and I kind of tried to explain what had happened, and she was like, "You need to go talk to somebody." And I was like, "No, I don't. I'll figure this out. We'll get this thing sorted out." kept dealing with it, kept dealing with panic attacks, kept dealing with, those weeks of just fighting with my own brain to give me the peace that I wanted. And I remember the exact day that we had kind of made the decision to change. I had woken up, and as soon as I woke up, it was like a Saturday, and I just remember feeling like, oh, today's gonna suck. Like out loud, just today's gonna suck. I get that feeling immediately, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna lay in bed for a while. 5-10 minutes, maybe I'll feel better. And then about 3 hours later, I'm still laying in bed, not scrolling on my phone, not watching TV, just laying there looking at the ceiling, feeling nothing.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I gotta get out of the house. Let me go drive around and just see what happens. So I hop in the car, drive out, and I stop at like a Target parking lot because I was gonna go in and just, browse around.
Just meander.
Yeah, just try to distract myself.
Yep.
And Ashley was on a work trip, and I had messaged her like, "How's your day going?" Blah blah blah, because she was a few hours ahead of us, and she was like, "Hey, my day's going pretty well. How's your day going?" And I don't know why that question was like the spark that lit it, but she was like, "How's your day going?" And I immediately broke down in the parking lot, like full on tears out of nowhere, hyperventilating, like losing it. And I texted her back and I said, I think I'm having another panic attack and I don't know what to do. And she obviously wasn't expecting that at all. And she just responded back with, I think it's time to talk to somebody. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. Like I'm done trying to fight this, you know, by myself every week or every time she goes on a trip. Like we'll go talk to somebody and we'll go get medication to help this out. So I set up an appointment, go out on my lunch break, sit down with the doctor. I start talking to him. Within 5 minutes, he goes, hold on a second. I'm going to prescribe you medication, but you're also going to talk to our in-house therapist. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, that was not what we agreed to, sir. I don't need to talk to a therapist. I just want the medication. Plus, I'm on my lunch break. I got to be back at work in 15 minutes. And he was like, nope, call your boss. Tell him what you got going on. And he was like, you're talking to a therapist today. And I just went, okay. I was like, my boss isn't going to like this. And I call my boss. And of course, he's like, bro, if you come back to the office without talking to somebody, you're fired. And I just went, fair enough. Uh, so sit down, talk to the therapist. It was the first time that I had sat down with a therapist ever. And she basically just said, so what have you been going through? And I word vomited everything that had ever happened from the deployment to all of the panic attacks and the breakdowns after the deployment to just everything. It was like an hour and a half long just vent. And at the end of it, she was like, okay, I've already scheduled you an appointment with an actual therapist that you will see every week. First session is next week. Make sure you don't miss it. And I just went, okay, cool. And I remember the day before my first session, I walked into the office and I had told a friend of mine who was a warrant officer in the military. He's a good friend of mine. I said, hey, man, I'm going to my first therapy session tomorrow. And he's a bigger, kind of muscly, weightlifter type dude. Doesn't really wear his emotions on his sleeves sort of guy. And he immediately bear hugged me. And he just went, I am so happy that you're doing this. And when he said that, I was like, I just kind of felt like an exhale of like, oh man, I have more support than I thought I did for going to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And next day, come into work, and he's the first person to see me, and he runs up to me And he's just like, dude, how was it? Like, what was your first session like? Like, what did you feel when you walked out of there? And I said, honestly, man, I've never felt lighter in my life. Like, just all of the weight and all of the stuff that I had been fighting with myself on, I finally threw it out there to somebody and just said, can you help me with this? What do I do? And we started kind of working on the machine. My therapist and I always kind of talked about, like, every time we sit down for a session, we're laying out the blueprints and we're going through and we're trying to figure out what needs to be fixed and what needs to be, where we need to put our attention today or this week or whatever. And I remember I'd seen him for about 2.5 years that I'd gone to therapy once a week, sometimes twice a week. And our last session, he was like, so what's the most beneficial thing that you have from our sessions? And I said, well, the first one is it's quiet when I'm alone. And I was like, I never thought that I would have peace from my own brain, from whatever was inside of my head attacking me when I was alone. I never thought I would have that. And I have it now. And I was like, but also I have the tools and I have the confidence to be able to work through those issues in the future should they come up again. I can identify them. I can, put a face to them, and it's not something that controls me anymore. Whereas before it controlled me, every aspect of my day. It controlled. It controlled when I would wake up. It controlled when I would go to sleep. It controlled what I would do when I got home. Um, it just took over my life, and I was so stubborn for so long about going to talk to somebody and getting help. Like, I look back on it and I'm like, dude, you were such an idiot. Like, you could have talked to somebody sooner. You could have done all this stuff sooner. And then I kind of remind myself, like, no, the timing was perfect.
Yeah.
Like, it had to be at that exact time. It had to be when that therapist was available, because typically he's not, from what the lady told me, he's not available. It had to be that time. But it had to be when I was ready to just throw everything out there and be willing to put in the work to change.
That's exactly right. Actually, my favorite part of this is you didn't continue to go, right? You got tools that you can use for yourself and you can think for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you now have things in um your tool
Arsenal.
belt, your arsenal, whatever.
Arsenal. Yeah.
You like arsenal more. Tools in your tool belt to be able to use, right?
Fucking tool.
And right, right. um, and that's the thing that I get. Do you still see a therapist all the time, or?
No, no. Once we moved out here, I started to work for myself, so I didn't have insurance or anything to go and see a therapist.
Totally get it.
Um, so yeah,
So that's but honestly, that's my favorite part is that you're taking control of your life.
yeah,
There's too many people that consistently rely and they outsource their own thinking to other people instead of using it as an opportunity to learn a tool and then move their lives forward. There's too many people that are like, "Oh, I'm subscripted to therapy for the rest of my life." It's like, why? Like, you need to think for yourself. You need to move forward. You need to learn how strong you can be and standing on your own 2 feet, right? But if you need to go back, of course, go back, get some tools, but don't subscript yourself to the rest of your life with therapy. And like, this is just, it's one of those stories of like, look, I got the help. I got the help I needed. And if I need to go back, I'm comfortable. I can go back if I need to go back
yeah,
for a couple of weeks or whatever and get the tools I fucking need. And then I leave again and I continue to work and I continue to grow myself and I find another level I reach. And if I start getting hit at this next level with things that I can't control, let's go find another tool, right? Let's go learn another thing. So um, that is so healthy.
I fucking love that you said that.
Yeah.
I was thinking that the entire time, and there's a big there's a big thing that I wanted to add to it is there's a lot of relying on other people in your story. So that's what I was going to mention is I'm glad that you just took the tools and got out and you worked on it yourself. Another big thing that you said was that your partner now, Ashley, uh, is your lightning rod, and I just need to survive until she's back. And that's like I love that you have that for you, and I have that for me too. But to use that as a staple in your mental health packet is awful because you know
Yeah.
the love for you two probably is astronomical and you guys might be together forever, but you also might not. You've been in that situation before, and if you lose that person, that staple or that lightning rod,
Yeah.
then you don't have tools or that person anymore. So the big thing that I was going to mention is to try to get that, you know, the self help, the tools in your arsenal to do it yourself. And it sounds like you did. So I'm very very happy to hear that because that was like a common theme that I was hearing in your story.
Yeah, it's badass.
Well, I think one of the hardest things that I didn't realize that I was doing was I was putting I was putting her in a position where she had to be the one that could take care of me.
Yeah,
And it wasn't even anything that she was doing. It was just her being around.
that's right.
Was
That's
like
immense pressure
that
for
was
her.
where I felt yeah, that was where I felt comfortable. So yeah, there would be times on where she's on a work trip and I'm calling just to be like, "Hey, like is everything okay? Like are you doing okay?" Just to hear the sound of her voice and give myself like to get whatever's going on in the back of my head to just shut up for a little bit
Yeah, man.
because now my brain's like, oh, he's talking to his person, he's talking to the lightning rod. We got to back off for a little bit, and I was putting so much pressure on her
Hmm.
in those early years of our relationship that it wasn't fair and it wasn't healthy.
Gotcha.
So the fact that you know we went out, we got therapy, we did the work, and I had to step away from therapy when we left the island. But one of the things, like you had said, one of the things my therapist had said was like, this isn't going to be something you do forever. If you don't want to do this forever,
That's a
you don't
great
have to do this
therapist.
forever.
That's a
Like,
great therapist.
I'm here to give you the tools so that when you step away, you are able to handle these things because that's the
Yes.
way it has to be.
Yes.
And having that mindset going into it helps me out tremendously
Yes.
because now I'm looking at it like a woodworker. I'm looking at it like someone who is building something where I go, okay, I'm not going to have this person around for the next 40 years to be able to say, hey man, how do you make that cut again? What saw do you use for this? No, I need to take his expertise and take what he's teaching me and put it in my arsenal, like we had said. That way I know when something comes up, I can go, oh, we used this for that one. So let's go ahead and grab that, do some work, and let's put that tool back and we're solid. We're
Yeah,
Beautiful.
good to
put
go.
these tools right in my arsehole.
Yeah,
I
right
mean
inside the
arsenal.
arsenal. Yeah.
No, but another thing that I wanted to mention is along with that, right? Along with it not being healthy for you in the long run, it's not healthy for them either. And I know this by uh, you know previous experiences with myself. Is I like to say that support shelves are made of glass, meaning as much weight as you put on somebody's support shelf, the more you put on it, it could shatter and it could
Yeah.
break, and that support could be lost, and it's not healthy for them either, being such a support shelf for you. It happened to me and a best friend of mine, and he used me as his support shelf for a very long time, and I love him and I would never take it back because he needed me, but at the same time, um,
Man up.
no, at the same time, it fucked me up. I started living his depression,
Yep.
Yeah.
and it made the stuff that was going on with me even worse, unbeknownst to him. And I literally, I told him like, I love you. He's my best friend in the whole fucking world. I said, I love you, man, but I need to take a break from you for a while. And I didn't talk to him for like 2 months, 3 months, something like that, just so I can get my head back on the shoulder. So Support shelves are made of glass. They're good to have. They're good to have people to lean on, but they'll shatter. So
Yeah.
definitely use them if you need them, but have the tools so you can fix yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really fucking important. I've been trying to really drive that point home consistently now in Refit. Is like, look, there's nothing wrong with therapy. There's nothing wrong with therapists, psychologists, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're just constantly using them, constantly going back to them, and you're putting pressure on people in your life around you constantly, then you're not doing anything to grow yourself, right?
Mm.
Now, that doesn't mean to not talk to your boys when you need to talk to them, but it does mean, hey, what are you doing to actually solve this? Are you talking about the same thing over and over and over and over again, or is it? Are you moving your life forward? Are you growing? Is it a new thing you're going through? Right. So that's the key. That's a really, really important thing. So also shout out Mama Corbett. She jumped in
What's
here.
up, mom?
Yeah, giving me the support. Love you. But yeah, man, I love that about your story. I love that you're really looking to um, take control of your own life again.
Yeah.
Or you have really at this point. And if you falter, you have a community of people ready to rock with you, like easy, right?
I have a
Yeah.
question. How long ago was
Come here.
have you been without a therapist and because of
Come here, buddy.
insurance?
Let's see. We moved out here June of 2023, so our last session was like the last week of May 2023.
Okay.
So about almost exactly 2 years.
All right. Just asking, was it too
Mm.
soon? Is it something that you still need to reach out for?
Um,
Is it more
I
so
think
a
for
community and some support shelves you need to talk to?
I think for me personally, it was a good time because I had started seeing him towards the end of 2019, I believe. So we had a few good years that we were talking pretty much every week. Um, and when we first moved out here, and I was starting to stand the business up and do this full time, and I was dealing with the stresses of that. Uh, trying to get exposure, trying to get sales, and then you've got weeks or months where no sales are coming in,
Yep.
and you just feel like a complete failure. There were a couple of times where I would text him and just be like, "Hey, uh, just to cue you in, this is what I've been feeling. Like this whole thing kind of sucks, but I know I have to keep going. I know I have to get through." And it wasn't anything that like the demons were coming back. It wasn't anything where I was fighting the things that I was fighting before we went to therapy. It was just new stresses of trying to
That's right.
build something from nothing.
That's right.
And he had a couple of good responses for me of just like, look, man, like this is how it's going to go. And that was another thing of having Ashley here, of just being like, I feel like I'm not contributing to the family, and that sucks. And she was like, yeah, you're not contributing financially because you're growing a business, but I lean on you for so many things now that we're out here because
Wonderful.
I'm working all the time, but you have the ability to, if we've got to go and pick up our son from school last minute, I'm in the car and I'm going. If I've got to get him to football stuff or pick him up late from football stuff, I'm in the car and I'm going. She comes downstairs from working all day. The kitchen's clean, the house is clean, everything's good to go because I didn't have anything to do that day, so I wanted to make sure that I cleaned up and made it as stress free of an environment as possible for her. Getting done with a full day of work and coming downstairs to hang out and make dinner and do all those things. So for her to say that to me when I'm over here complaining and stressing about not bringing money in consistently,
Yep.
because I thought she was worried about that. And she was like, if you think I'm stressing about money right now from your side of the table, like I'm not. So you shouldn't be stressing. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh my God, okay. Whew. All right, I can relax, I can breathe easy. And then her added point of just like the amount of things that you do that have nothing to do with your work, that have nothing to do with my work, but have everything to do with our family
Our
day
life.
to day schedule. That is how you are contributing.
That was me and my
And I
wife
was like, okay,
before she started her business.
yeah,
She was worried about the same thing, and I was like, "Trust me, I would 100% rather do my job than do your job." And
yeah,
she just makes my life a life worth living, really,
yeah,
her and my kids. So she went through the same thing. It's just
yeah,
another perspective that you need to have.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I resonate with that. And when it comes to like the business struggles as well, I tell people all the time before they start their own like business, if anybody tells me that they're looking to do that, I'm like, listen, get ready for a mirror to be thrown up in front of your face because you're really going to see who you are.
yeah,
And it's going to be a mental struggle. And if you think you're gritty enough and you're tough enough to push through the hard times, then do it. But if you have to be honest with yourself, if you're not, then you're going to have a hard time. And also something was mentioned, I wanted to bring this up too, the communication between you and your partner. But Todd over here on Instagram said communication is key in life. If you talk to your partner about everything, it makes the partnership real. And that's true, man. I mean, like, that's everything. You got to communicate, you got to talk to each other, you got to have those. Your stressors are valid and her response is just as valid. And that's a
yeah.
really good person to have in your life, right? Someone that's like, look, I'm here to support you too. Like, you're supporting me. It's not like you're not doing anything. Like, you're supporting me, you're helping, like, you're a part of this. Keep on going. That's a great partner. Actually, on the business side of things, I read a biography of this guy, James Dyson. He's the founder, owner of Dyson vacuum cleaners and everything
Mm,
else. And there was a point in time where a few times where he wanted to quit everything. He was taking loans out. He's about to default on some of the loans and stuff. And his wife was like, keep going. Like, don't you quit. Like, you're doing something special and amazing and you have what it takes. Keep going. She did not judge him. She did not tell him to quit. Like, that is someone special. It's rare, dude. Most
yeah.
people would be like, quit, like, go get a regular job and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. And like, dude, you had the perseverance to stick through it. And you also had the right partner and the right person in your life, the right person that you love, that loves you in your life to support you through that as well. So it's huge, man.
No, I mean, honestly, if it weren't for her and the conversations that we've had about the business, I was ready to close everything down in like April of last year. Um, it was just a really rough couple of months. It was a really, really hot like spring. I'm sure everybody can see me sweating like a pig in here. It's probably 90 degrees in the shop, but it was like 100 degrees, and I'm out here for 8 hours a day making rings and posting stuff on all the socials and editing videos and putting them on YouTube, and I'm getting nothing, no sales, no comments, no nothing. And I remember one like really, really aggressively hot week where I came inside and Ashley just kind of looked at me. She was like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And I was like, "I think I'm done." And she just went, "What?" And I was like, "I think I'm done. Like, I'm doing all of this stuff. I'm putting all of this effort into this thing, and nothing's happening. No, there's no feedback. There's no, like, no interest. Nothing is working. And
Yep.
I'm so frustrated and so disheartened with this. And I don't think I can keep doing this." And she was like, "Oh, no, you're going to keep doing this." I kind of laughed and she was like, "Just stick with it. Like, trust me, just stick with it. I knew when we came out here the first couple of years were going to be rough to grow the business. Like, just stay with it." And a few months later, I was in Detroit competing at a Warrior Rising competition and seeing just how many people really did care about what I was making.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right. Like, it doesn't matter if I have a rough month, like, I'm here and I'm going to stay here. Uh, And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I've, you know, on a whim decided to make an 8.5 hour drive out to Iowa a couple weeks ago for a one full day event and then drive all the way back the next morning because I believe in what those guys are doing and they've done so much for me in the past year. And I mean, you and I met there and, I met a lot of phenomenal people there that are already having some pretty big impacts on the business side of the house. And I kind of look back on that conversation last year and I'm like, whoa, oh, I was so close to giving it up. I was so close to just throwing in the towel and going to work whatever job. And I am so glad that we had that conversation and
Yeah,
that I
man.
just didn't.
Yeah, stepping into purpose is really difficult, and taking on your own life is really, really difficult. And not enough people understand, and I think it's for a reason. Not a lot of people understand what it's like to have the struggles of, even in the side of like running your own company, and like how absolutely challenging that is, and how mentally taxing that is when you have to do like everything right, and
Yeah.
how scary it is. And dude, it is absolutely fantastic that you stick with it and you keep on going, because one, it's making you tougher, it's making you stronger. Going through the meat grinder, if you will, right? Like, you're going to come out the other side better, and you're going to meet great people, and you get to have these awesome adventures, and you get to meet amazing people all over the place. And it's a gift, dude. I have a buddy of mine that said to me a couple of months ago, he's like, dude, he's like, he has a very, very good, well paying job, everything like that. He works in the union right now, and he's a pipe fitter. And he's like, dude, like, he's like, I get paid a lot, but like, you get to fucking go and see the world and experience things and help people out. And like, that's fucking amazing, dude. He's like, and you've overcome so much, and you've built such a crazy, organization, and other things that you're doing. Like, it's all growing, and you're just, he's like, you get to really see you, was essentially what he was saying. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. And that is what it's all about. And that's actually the mindset that I have the whole time. Like, it's just, I get to test me, right? I
Yeah.
get to grow me. And by me growing and getting better, I get to help others. And that's what brings value to the whole adventure and to the whole story. Like, I get to share it out, and I get to talk to people about it. I get to meet guys like you, and what a gift. I get to build relationships with some great people. And that's just, dude, that is what it's about. It's literally the journey. It's not about what's the end goal. It's about what is happening every day. What am I putting in? What is each step, like the mud and the journey is actually what you need to be praising and be proud of and be happy for. And as soon as you
Yeah.
get into that state of mind, dude, like, a lot of shit changes, a lot of shit, you become tougher again, stronger, mentally more resilient to more things. That's why if bad things happen, I'm like, look, like, is this really that big of a deal? Do
Yeah.
we have to really be concerned about this? Because I still get to lay my head down at night, and I still get to pursue my dreams at the end of the day. And maybe I do need to step up. Maybe I do need to push more. Maybe I do have to learn a new skill, right? Like, and those are gifts. Those are opportunities. That's why when I talk to people and they're going through tough times, fucking, I'm sure they hate hearing it from me when they're going through tough times. But I'm like, dude, like, what's the opportunity here? What's happening
Yeah.
in your life that's so bad that doesn't have an opportunity right behind it?
Yeah.
You know? And Wade here said, first couple years are the hardest. Proud of you for the dedication and tenacity and to your business. Killing it, brother. When you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, you have two choices. You get stronger or you accept defeat. You only truly fail when you quit. And that's real shit. Wade, by the way, is one of the leaders inside of Refit. Absolute stud. And Jeff said, I went to Philly and I can't stand Philly and got to pick with Rocky. Shut the fuck. Jeff, get out of here with your Tom Brady ass.
Dude, these rings are fucking awesome.
Are you looking at his website?
Yes.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Dude,
They are incredible.
dude,
Yes. I've seen them in
what?
person. They're amazing. Actually, let's do that for you real quick. Let's pull up your website and show everybody
All
what
right.
we're at here.
All
Holy
right.
fuck.
Yeah. So while you guys are pulling that up, I want to shout out one of the members in Warrior Rising. I could shout out all
Yeah,
of them, but we'd
please.
be here for a half hour. But one of the guys, Reggie Ordonez, phenomenal person, one of the most genuine human beings I've ever met.
That's cool.
When I finished in second place at the Detroit competition, I was ecstatic because like the businesses I was going up against were a lot bigger than I was, and they were like, we're working with AI to help, hospitals or to help construction and to help all these different things. And I was just like, I make rings in my garage, like, and so when
You
they
do
they
way more
called
than
my
that.
name for when they called my name for second place, I was like, holy crap, okay, this is pretty cool. And I came off stage and Reggie pulled me aside and he was like, hey, I want to share something with you about the kind of the perspective of your journey right now. And I was like, all right. He was like, life is all about peaks and valleys. Right now you're at a peak. Enjoy it. It's great. The sun is shining. Everybody's happy. You're having a good time. You look over your shoulder and you're looking back at all the valleys that you had come through to get to this peak. But he was like, learn to love the valleys because that's where the
Yeah,
growth is. That's where the greenery is. That's where the work is done.
that's
And when
exactly
he
right.
said that to me, I was like, oh, that's my new mindset.
That's
Like that is
exactly
100% my mindset on this. So shout out to Reggie for that. He's a phenomenal dude. If you ever get a chance to work with him, he is one of the most incredible individuals out there, and I'm very lucky to have him in my corner.
that is
Oh, here we go.
exactly right.
Here we go.
Here are the rings that he makes. I mean, they really are beautiful. They're absolutely
Thank you.
stunning.
They're gorgeous rings, but like that mixed with authentic. Like I saw the Eagles one. It's like
Yeah.
seats from the
Yeah,
Eagles
seat from the
Stadium, and
stadium. Yeah.
the Wembley Stadium's dirt and wood. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing.
Wait, hang on, Jeff. If you're still
Oh, sorry.
watching, look, buddy, they got the Boston Red Sox wood and infield dirt ring going on right now, right here.
Oh my
I got
god.
I got a couple different Red Sox variations. I'm a Red Sox fan, so that was really the thing that started me down the rabbit hole of putting stadium material into the rings. Uh, I'd gotten a watch from Ashley for my birthday with Red Sox stadium wood in the watch, and like 2 years later, I start making rings. And I remember just sitting there at traffic one day, and I'm looking at my watch. I was like, man, if they can get wood from Fenway Park, I can get wood from Fenway Park, and I can make
That's right.
myself a Red Sox ring. And then we just went down the rabbit hole and got
These are gorgeous.
material from stadiums all over. Thank you.
I love the Eagles ring.
The most
The
important ring
Eagles
he's
ring's pretty cool.
The most important ring he's made.
made. No, I mean, this is just incredible. And by the way, also, I do want to point out, he also, if you have a family member that, passed away and there's ashes available, I mean, he can also put ashes inside of a ring and you can pass it out to the family members. I mean, dude, it's just unbelievable work that you're doing. I mean, it
Thank you.
really is beautiful. And again, this journey is going to show you who you really are, and you are resilient and you are tough and you do have the grit to get through it. And that's actually what matters. I mean, that's the
Thank
key
you.
at the end of the day. So keep it up, dude. I mean, your journey, you're thinking for yourself, you're finding out the people who truly are in your corner and who love you. And dude, it's beautiful, man.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me on here. It was
Show this. Share
pretty
that one
awesome.
on the screen.
Hang on. We're going to share another one. Which one?
Which one is it? Which one is it?
The Dodgers ring.
Oh, the Dodgers ring. Yeah.
Wade said, "You got a Dodgers ring? Come on."
I have hold on.
Who are the Dodgers, Jeff says?
I have dirt from Dodger Stadium where they had the All-Star game in 2022.
Oh, that's neat. Oh my gosh.
I have
Yeah,
all sorts of crazy stuff in my shop, man.
you got the hookup, dude. That's
uh,
cool. That's really cool.
oh, granite from West Point. That's one of my favorite ones.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really cool, man. You get to use your creativity, you get to use your love, you get to use your dedication, and you're putting it in every ring.
You got to
well,
get
it's
some infantry dirt from Fort Benning.
I'm actually in the process of trying to get dirt and other materials from several different military installations right now. Because, I mean, when I started this whole thing, I was just making rings out of like whiskey barrel staves, like bourbon barrel staves. And then people started asking me if I could make rings with material that was personal to them. And they started to tell me the story of why that thing was so meaningful to them. And that's when I realized, like, oh, I can be doing a lot more with this than just making bourbon barrel stave rings. I can.
This
No, I
dude
don't want to
got
get
black
arrested.
market shit that Jeff just said. And Wade said, I need a new wedding ring. That's so great.
Yeah, but it's all about telling the story, man. It's all about telling the story.
That's right.
That's what I love about doing this. I get to sit down and talk to people, and I get to hear what makes them passionate, what makes them happy, like, what makes this piece something that is more than just a ring. Like, it's not something you're going to get at Jared or Kay or any of those places, um, but it's something that they're going to cherish more than those $10,000 rings from Jared or Kay or
Hell
any
yeah.
of those other places.
Hell
And
yeah.
that's what's most important to me.
100%, dude. I love that. Damn. Let's go. That is so special. Well, everybody, this has been the episode meeting James Legear and Legear's workshop and how he's been able to turn his entire life around. And at this moment, we're now into the one question. You shared a lot about your story, and I feel like you did give us the answer already. But what was the moment that you went from "fuck my life" to "for my life"? Truly, went from "fuck my life" to "for my life." Or was there multiple
Uh,
times?
it was, I would say the first kind of inkling of it was when Ashley had said, "Hey, it's time to talk to somebody." Um, that was when I kind of was more open to the idea of like, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do here. And the definite like, holy crap, I can do this and I can make this work was walking out of that very first therapy session, not even the one with my actual therapist, the one that I had kind of gotten blindsided with in the hospital, where he was like, "You're talking to someone today." And I was like, I guess I am. And just letting it all out for the first time and walking out of that office, I was like, all right, we can do this. Like, we can make this work.
Hell
It's
yeah.
doable. So I'd say those were probably the two biggest moments right there.
That's really cool.
Question from Wade.
What could you make KIA bracelets? I have the ability to, or I'm going to have the ability to here soon. With I'm getting a new machine here in the next couple of weeks that'll let me do that. But a lot of that is the demand. It's one of the reasons why I focus on rings and not bracelets and pendants and all of those other things, is because I haven't had enough people come through and tell me, "Hey, I want you to make these." Uh, but I mean, if there's enough interest for it, hell yeah, I'm always ready to learn a new skill.
That's cool shit. Well, that being said, that question answered. Uh, James, thank you so much for today. Really do appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for jumping in here with us and hearing James's story and spending time with Project Refit here, James and Rocco. We cannot thank you guys enough. Oh, and of course our co-host Cullen, who is sleeping on the job right now underneath of the desk, uh, as a good boy should. But yeah, so thank you all so much for spending time with us today and hearing this out. And let's go. And also, Wade did just say, let a player know. I'll buy and advertise that ish.
Shoot me an email on the website so that I have your info, and when I make the first one, I'll let you know.
And what is that website?
That is legearsworkshop.com.
I'll send it to you, Wade. I'll text it.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all. And we're out.
Thank you.